keyboard conversation is a concert with commentary.
He's going to give us intensely throbbing rhythms and sheer blocks of blazing sonority.
It's primarily a concert. I'm a concert pianist. Each work on the program is performed in its entirety. What we'd like to think of as being the plus is that prior to the performance of each work, I speak to the audience about the music with some musical examples and no technical language.
And he writes here into the score in Italian con voglia, with yearning, with longing, with desire.
And I do this with the hope that whatever I say about the piece of music will make the listener's listening experience more focused, more meaningful, more accessible, more enjoyable.
He takes a really complex subject, classical music, breaks it down in ways that are really illuminating and really fun to a novice like myself. And the real trick in doing this and doing it well is doing it in a way that doesn't dumb it down, in a way that retains all its complexity and texture, but makes it really accessible, open, and fun.
A melody that is known to every piano student and every parent of a piano student. Who was Elise, and why did Beethoven write this very introspective, very poetic piece of music for Elise? Why? We talk about this before hearing the work in a keyboard conversation program. That's the prelude of Rachmaninoff's that he wrote when he was 19 years old. It brought him worldwide fame and immediate name recognition, and yet was a piece of music the composer himself grew to hate.
There's another reason, not nearly so well known, as to why Rachmaninoff loathed this piece. When he published it at the age of 19 in Russia, he was not the international cosmopolitan figure that he was to become. When he published the work, he neglected to secure for it international copyrights. In his later years, Rachmaninoff hated this composition so that he could only refer to the work as it. Let's hear it.
Jeffrey is one of the best people I know when it comes to communicating thoughts and ideas about music to both a general audience and an audience just coming to music. In this day and age, we need people like Jeffrey to present music in a very fresh, very new, and very compelling way. Jeffrey is so good at this. He's remarkable in his ability to communicate to people from all walks of life. Jeffrey's stature in the musical world is well known to everybody. But perhaps it's this focus on education that makes him unique from most of his colleagues.
One of our most popular tunes in our American culture is the I Got Rhythm of Gershwin. Why does it sound so jazzy and syncopated? Well, Gershwin could have written the tune this way. Pretty dull and deadly, but he didn't. He wrote it this way. Now, the difference between the two is that when I played it the first way, I took all of Gershwin's melody notes and I arranged them so that each note fell right on the beat. But that's not the way Gershwin wrote it. He wrote the tune in such a way that some notes fall right on the beat, while others fall in between the beats. Now, which notes of the melody does the composer choose to fall with the beat, and which notes of the melody between the beats, that's part of the composer's genius.
He's an amazing musician. He has the chops of a world-class pianist. And to combine those two elements, to combine his incredible ability as a pianist with his incredible ability as a communicator, you don't find that anywhere.
Scriabin was very much inspired by Chopin. He loved Chopin's music, and reputedly, Scriabin actually slept with a volume of Chopin's music under his pillow for inspiration. I have to tell you, in my youth, I tried this also. But all I got was a stiff neck.
You talk about humor in music and in the composers. You know, composers were people, and Jeffrey humanizes the composers.
We're an educational institution, and we can put all kinds of people on stage who can play brilliantly and never make a connection with a student. And this fits so perfectly with an education institution such as this university.
Here we have an outburst of joy, of exuberant joy.
It brings an awful lot of people who would have never heard of Hamlin to Hamlin, and they get a connection with the university in that way. A lot of them have transferred over and come to other musical events that we have here.
I am just amazed at this first season where we've had 3 performances and they have basically tripled, and looking at next year as being very, very exciting and continuing with these programs.
Classical music can indeed be listened to without any verbal preparation whatsoever. I would be the first to defend the principle that music does not need anybody to say anything about it. However, if a musician can say something to the listener, to bring the listener into the piece of music,
he's going to give us a melody that's of crystalline, delicate beauty.
Then there's something to be said for saying something about music.
I'll play the opening phrase for you.
And thankfully, the Keyboard Conversations achieves that aim.
And following the performance of this, I invite you please to stay, and I will be very interested not only in your questions, but in whatever reactions you'd care to share regarding the pieces of music that you've heard tonight.
It's always a part of a Keyboard Conversation program that is eagerly awaited by the members of the audience as well as by myself.
All the way at the top, please, and I'll repeat the question.
This is an incredibly technical program. How long does it take you to prepare something?
The gentleman says that he finds this to be an incredibly technical program, a lot of notes to play. How long does it take a concert pianist to prepare such a program? The true answer is a lifetime.
Some of the more memorable questions, I remember a 9-year-old boy who finally broke free of his mother's grasp and raised his hand and shouted, "Mr. Siegel, how many hours a day did Bach have to practice?"
It's important to understand that the conversations reach across all age barriers, that even though the original intent was to just illuminate the life of the composer and their music for an audience that was already there, now it seems even more than ever appropriate for everybody who can to get involved with Jeffrey's conversations.
We are living at a time now where what great music has to offer is more necessary, it's more needed than ever before. We all want to be touched, we want to be moved, we want to be transported by something more than sheer noise. These great works of musical art have been around for decades and decades because they speak to a human being in the most marvelous way. And people are touched and moved when they hear this music. If they will give themselves the opportunity, if they can come to a program with an open mind, an open ear, a willing heart, they will be touched by these great works of musical art that have so much to say to human beings.